All right, let's continue with this stuff. We created this function in the last video and we talked about how you calculate the frequency of specific notes. In this video, we're going to take it a little bit further and we're going to create a function that returns the frequencies of the notes from a start node to an end node within a range. I'm just going to delete this to begin with. We don't need that anymore. We're going to keep all this other stuff that we already typed out here in the last video. So first of all, I would like to have a note name array. I am going to be using, I already typed it out here, so I'm just going to copy and paste it. I'm just going to be using an array with sharps. So I go from C, C sharp, D, D sharp, E, F, F sharp, and so on and so forth. We're kind of calling it the note name array here. So you could also use flats, or you could change it whatever you want to, but in this case we're just going to be using sharps. And then I'm just going to set a start node and an end node. So let's start with setting a start node. And that should be a string, and let's say we just start at C2. And an end node, also a string, and it could be anything here. Let's just say D6. Something like that. All right. Then we have some data to work with. All right. Next, we're going to create the function. I'm going to call that create array of note frequencies or something like that. At least you know what it does then. And we want to take the range. So we want to take the start node and the end node. So we can pass that in here. Okay. In here, first we want to actually split up these because we want to have, first we want to have the C by itself, or the note name. It could also be D or C sharp or whatever. And then we want to have the octave, and we want to have the octave as a number because we're going to use that for some calculations. So first of all, inside this function, we could start by defining the start octave. So let's set start octave. And let's set that equal to, we already have the start node up here, so let's take that. And then we're going to use the slice method. And the way we can get the last value of, or the last character of the string, the start node string, which is 2, we can just slice and pass in -1. That will return the last character here, which is either 2 or 6. But we want to use it as a number. This is just going to take this. This is already a string, so it's still going to be a string. So let's just parse int here. So that would be parse int, and then wrap this in parentheses. All right. We want to do kind of the same thing for the end octave. So actually, I'm just going to copy this. And then I'm going to change this to end node. Okay. So that should work. We can try and see if it works. Just console log in it. Start octave. And end octave. And then we need to execute the function. Here. We need to pass in something. We need to pass in that start node that we declared up above, and the end node, like this. Let's go to our browser and see what's going on. I don't know why I have this one here. That's from the last video, I think. So I get 2 and 6, and I get them as numbers. I can see that because they're purple here in the console in Chrome. The next thing we want to do, we also want to get the note name, not only the octave. So let's define that down here. Let's call this start node name. And we're going to set that equal to, we're going to slice it as well, but we're just going to take remove the last character and then keep the rest, because it can be either 1 or 2, because we have it could be C, or it could also be C#. So it can be, actually the maximum it can be is 3 characters, because we're not going to go below 0, of course, and we're not going to go over 9. So maximum 3. So what I'm trying to say here is we want to slice this as well. So we just take the start node and we run a slice on that as well. But this time we just want to do it a little bit differently, and we want to do it like this, because we want to just remove the last one. So this is how we do that. We pass in 0 and then -1, and then we will get the string of C# here in this case. And we're going to do the same thing basically with the end node. Copy this here. And we're just going to change the variable names. End node name is end node. Let's just check if it works. I'm just going to console log to see if we have everything separated, because that's what we need to have in order to continue. Oh, start node name is not defined. What's going on here? That would be start node name. Oh my god. I don't know what I'm doing here. This should, of course, be up here. Oh my goodness, I'm tired. Something like that. That makes sense. So now we get octave number 2, octave number 6, we get C#, and we get D, and that is exactly what we want. Alrighty. So, actually, in order to make it a little bit, we should actually check if something is true or false here, because we don't want the user to pass in the highest octave first. We always want the user to pass in the lowest octave. So we could actually make a little check here. We could also make a check to make sure that it's actually strings that we pass in and things like that. But let's just add this one check here. I'm not going to go into adding a lot of different checks. We could also set the default value of these if you don't pass in anything, but this is not in the scope of this tutorial here. So let's just make a little if statement here. So if the start octave is greater than the end octave, we don't want that, so just return. All right. Just going to add a comment here. If start octave is great than end octave, get lost. All right, let's continue here. Now comes the fun part. We already extracted these things. We extracted the first couple of characters here, the node name, and then we extracted the octave, and we converted that into a number. So the next thing we want to find out is, where is the start node name? Where is that located in our node name array? Because we only want to start from that, and we only want to continue to the one here. We don't want to continue past D, because that's where we want it to stop, right? And we don't want to, let's say, we could say this is a D2 instead. Let's try that. D2. So we want to start from here. We don't want to start from the first one. So the way we can do that is we will go down here after we declare the start node name and end node name. We will use this one and we'll see if we can get the position of these. And the way we do that, let's call it let node name array start index, let that be equal to the node name array. And index of. So we're checking to see if the start node or the start node name is in this array. And if it is, it will return the position of wherever it is in that array. So we got that. We are going to do something similar. So let's just copy this and let's call this end index and end note name. And we can try to see if we get what we expect. Go back. And we get 2 and we get 2, so that's interesting. That's probably because I passed in, oh, it's D, both of them are D. Let's try an A instead here. And then we get 2 and 9, and D, if I count in 0, 1, 2, that's correct, so that's 2, and A is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, which is what we get here. So far so good, we have the data we need now. What we want to do first is we want to make an array of nodes containing all the nodes from the start node to the end node. And I'm just going to create a variable here, which is going to be an empty array, and we're going to push the values into this later. So let's call that node array. And that's just going to be an empty array. Oh, that's great. That bird in the background, I hope you like it, because I'm not going to shoot it for you, but it's there and it's irritating me. Nevertheless, let's go down here. Now we define all of this stuff here. So now we need to loop. Let's go looping. So let's create a for loop. And we are going to set the octave, because we want to loop from this octave here to that octave. So from 2 to 6, and we already have that stored in start octave and end octave. So we're just gonna take the let octave and let's set that one equal to the start octave, because that's where we're starting. That's how it is. And then we want to check as long as octave is less than or equal to the end octave, because we want to run from the we want to loop from the start octave to the end octave. Then we're just going to increment octave. So like this. All right. So inside this for loop, we have to check. So first, let me make a comment here. So if this is the first octave, then we want to start from the node index. Start node index, right? So we're going to make a conditional here. So if octave is equal to, so the first time it runs through this, it will be this one. It will be equal to the start octave, because we're using the same one to count from in our for loop. So if octave is equal to start octave, we will actually need another loop in here, because we want to start from that one, from the one that we find in here. So I'm just going to type it out. I'm going to try to explain it. So let I equal node name array start index, because that's where we want to start from. And as long as I is less than the length of the node name array, node name array length, then we want to increment I. What's going on here? Well, we're just saying that we want I here to be, we want to start looping from the node name array start index, which we just set up here. So in this case, it was D2. That would be, we want to start from this location here. We want to skip the first ones, and then we want to start from this one, because that is the start of the range that we're passing into our function. So that's what we're going to do here, and then we're going to run to the length of this one here, because we know this is, we could just type 12, because we know there's 12 values in here. So but let's just the node name array length is better. We're just going to take our node array that we created up here. That is the empty array here, and we're going to push the values into it. What we're going to push into it, let's see about that. So we want to push the note name array, and we want to push the ith value, and then we want to add the octave, right? Because we are already looping over the octave here, so we know that the first one we will be in the second octave. So it's just going to add 2 to this here. So it's going to take the node name, the first one it finds, and then it's going to continue through the length of the node name array. So that's interesting. Maybe we should just try down here and just console log the node array just to see what we get. And we get an array starting from D2, D#2, E2, and all the way up to B2. The length is only 10, so it looks like it worked. It's starting from this one here and then all the way up. So that's good. So we're gonna kind of repeat this thing here for the next one. And when I say the next one, I actually mean the last one, because we want to take care of the end octave first, or next. So I'm going to type in else if. So else if octave is the end octave. So if we reach the last one, then I should actually probably type in a little comment here. Add until last note name. Something like that. I'm not very good at writing comments, so please help me. So we are going to do basically the same thing here. We're going to run a for loop, and we are going to, let me use I this time. So let I equal 0, because we want to run, we know we want to start from the beginning here. We don't want to start from we want to go to the end index, but we want to start from the beginning. So let's do that, and as long as I is less than or equal to the node name array end index, then we want to increment. So that means that we will go through this one up here, and then we will start from 0, and then we know when we want to stop, because we don't want to continue beyond the end node name in this one here. So here we can basically do the same thing. We can take the node array, and we can push the node name plus, oh, actually the node name array I, the ith value, and we're going to add the octave as well. Interesting. Let's see. All right, this is not a number. Let's see what I did wrong here. And of course that would be because we're not, this is the node name array that we want to push the ith value of. Okay, let's see if that works. All right, it looks like it works. We got from D2, and then we all of a sudden from B2 we changed to C6 all the way up to A6, which is exactly what we want. But we also want in between, we want the rest of the notes in between those two octaves. So in this case, the octave 3 through 5. So we're just gonna do else in case none of these are true. Then we are going to, if it's somewhere in between, let me just, then we will take, actually we can just run for each on it here. So I can take a node name array for each, and in here we just want to use the node name and an arrow function here. And inside here, we just want to take the node array and we are going to push the node name and the octave. Okay, let's see if that works. Let's go back to our browser. Oh, there's something going on line 40. Line 40, 40, 40. Oh, okay. I accidentally added a little too much here. So, as we can see, we have one, it's 55 long, and we start from D2, then we go all the way up to, it goes from B2 to C3, all the way up to the next octave here. We go to C4, this is the golden nugget right here. And then we go all the way up to the last note. So now we have what we actually set out to get, which is an array of all the node names within this span of a start node and all the way to the end node. But that is not all we want. What we actually set out to do from the beginning was getting the frequency of all the nodes we pass into this function here. And we already made this one here, so why not utilize that and get the frequencies that we need. So we are going to need, actually we're going to, what we want to return, I would like to return an array of objects where every single object will contain a property called node name and a property called frequency. So that would be something like, yeah, an array containing, the first object could be, let's call it node name, and maybe that would be a C#3, and then we want the frequency here. So, and I'm just gonna guess, I don't know exactly what it is, but some number here, and we just want a lot of those, you know, so we're just gonna, yeah, get an array of objects like this. So in order to do that, let's create the result that we actually want to return from this bigger function. And we should probably split up this function. I'm not going to do it right now. That's your job. But let's just start out by creating our result. And as I just said, we want that to be an array. So let's start out with an empty array. So I'm just going to add a little comment here. So find frequencies for every node in array. All right. And let's start by finding out the reference node position. And here I'm talking about our reference node A4. Where is that located inside our array of nodes here? Because what we want to do, we want to calculate, we want to find this one first. Where is it anyways? It's F4, so it must be around here. So A4 is here. Where is this located? At what, if we count from 0, 1, 2, 3, all the way up to A4, where is it actually located? That way we can calculate from which position we have to add positive numbers and from which position we have to subtract numbers to get the nodes below and the nodes above. So we want to get the index of the A4 first. So down here, let's create that let reference node position. And a way to do that is just to take the node array and get the index of the reference node name. So that would be the node array and get the index of the reference node name, which we declared all the way up here. Actually, we didn't. I forgot to do that. So the reference node name, let's just... And that would be A4. All right. Good, 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 good. So now it should work. Let's actually here, I just want to try to console log that reference node position. Save that and go back here, and we get 31. So I'm pretty sure if we count 1 or 0, 1, 2, 3, and all the way up to here, we get the position of that one. We can try to also console log the node array, and the reference node position. We should get A4, and we do. So it's located on spot number 31. Okay, so far so good. I'm gonna set a variable here again and just call it first value, and I am going to, well, we want the reference node position, but we want the negative value of that because that's where we're going to start from, because when we want nodes that are lower than the reference node, the A4 in our case, we have to use negative numbers. So we actually just have to make this number negative, and we could just multiply it by -1, but for some reason it doesn't work in all browsers. So a way we can do it is we can use the math library in JavaScript once again, and ABS, that will be the absolute value of something, and the absolute value is just the distance from 0 to this number, whether it be negative or positive. So this will also always be a positive number. So I'm just gonna take the reference node position here, and it's gonna be a positive number now, but I can just add a minus in front of this here, and we're gonna get the negative number. Let's console log that so you can see what I'm talking about. And I get -31. So we're just taking 31, and we are getting the -31 from that. Then we want to run a for loop one more time. And in this loop, we want to start with the first value. So let I, because we want to start from -32 in this case. This is how you spell it. So as long as I is less than the node array length, we will increment. Or actually, this is not quite true, because we don't want the whole node array length, because we're just gonna get we're just gonna continue till, because we start from a lower number here, it's just gonna continue way further than we actually want. We want to subtract the same value, the position of it. So we're gonna take node name, node array length, and we're gonna subtract the reference node position. That should hopefully work. So inside this one here, we just want to take the result, and that is the empty array that we created up above. The result, and we're gonna push an object to that. And the first one, we want it to be node name, and the second one, I'm just gonna add it later, we want to be frequency. All right, like that. Okay, so this first one here, we want to take the node array, and then we want, what value do we want in here? Well, we actually don't have anything to count, because here we want the first value, right? But here we're starting with we want the first value of the array, not this one, first value here. We want it to start from scratch. So up here, because this one goes from -32 in this case, and we want 0, so I'm gonna have to make a little node name index here that we can increment and use. So I'm gonna take let node name index, I'm gonna call it, and just set it to 0 here to begin with. And then down here in our for loop, we are going to increment it. So down here inside our loop, after we push this, we're just going to increment that. So that will be node name index, and increment that. So that is what I want to put in there. I want to take the node name index here, just like that. And then we want to calculate the frequency. And we already made this one in the previous video, and we're just going to use that one. And that one works by, we are going to take, we're going to run it, calc frequency, I think it's called, calc freq. And then we're going to pass in the reference node frequency. And the reference node frequency is this one here, the 440, because we passed that in here. And we are going to use I. And I in the first place, that will be minus the reference node position. So in this case, we counted up to 32. So it's going to be minus 32. And then it's going to continue until it's finished. And all the way down here, we want to return our result. So yeah, this probably works. This looks right. It will return the result. We can try and see what's going on. Let me just console log before we return it, the result. And go back to the browser, and wow, we get a whole long array here, and we get an array of objects, and every object contains node name and the frequency. And if we look at our table of frequencies, it looks like it works. I can see A3, that is 220 hertz, and A4 should be 440, and so on and so forth. So this way we can get all the different nodes that we pass into this function and the frequency of them, of each single one of them. So, but we don't need this console log. We'll just need to return the result. Let's go to our console, and we could pass in something else. Let's just go ahead and do this. We want to pass in the first. We need to pass in two strings. Let's say we want from F#3 until, yeah, what should that be? A#6. And we will get F#3, which is what we passed in as the first argument, and all the way until A#6. So that's how you do that. I hope you enjoyed this, and I hope you can use it. Let me know in the comments what you come up with. If you're gonna be using this for a special cool little project, then please share it with me. I would love to check out your projects, and please let me know what you think about this. If you want me to continue making videos like this,